So let's get an expert's take on Kim Jong-un's first known trip outside North Korea since coming to power in 2011. We are joined on the phone by North Korea expert Daniel Pinkston, lecturer in international relations with Troy University. Thank you ever so much for joining us this afternoon. I'd like to start by asking about the significance of the timing of this trip. Why, of all times, did Kim Jong-un decide to go to Beijing this week?
Well, the reports that are coming out now indicate that Xi Jinping invited Kim and he accepted. At least that's what the reports say. So many people in China are speculating about Xi and the movement and the geopolitics in the region. Things are starting to move quickly with inter-Korean relations, and of course the summit coming up between President Moon and Kim Jong-un, and then President Trump has also accepted an invitation to meet with Kim Jong-un. So there are going to be a lot of things on the agenda and objectives from the different sides. So considering the tension in relations between Beijing and Pyongyang, I think was an opportunity to deal with those issues and also to look at what Kim seeks to achieve in the two summits coming up in April and possibly May.
And in regards to those summits then, do you think these discussions, these surprise discussions between Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping have made this rush to diplomacy we're seeing on North Korea's nuclear missile programs more complicated, or have kind of cleared the path for Kim's summits with Presidents Moon and Trump?
Well, I think there are a number of issues. The agenda is much larger than just nuclear and missile programs. I don't mean to minimize or dismiss those issues. They are extremely important and should have most of the attention of senior policymakers. But there are inter-Korean humanitarian issues. North Korea is seeking sanctions relief, and I think he's probably looking at possible actions on North Korea's side that could lead to sanctions relief from China. And of course, they would couch that in the terminology of economic cooperation. So if it's some kind of investment or debt relief or financial support or trade credits or something else, China might be prepared to provide some assistance in case North Korea suspends missile flight testing, for example, or they might receive some rewards for foregoing any nuclear tests.
Yeah, we'll get into the economic benefits of this meeting in just a moment, but we still really don't know the full extent of what Kim and President Xi talked about. But would you read this as a signal that North Korea is ready to enter genuine discussions on abandoning its nuclear weapons?
Well, North Korea said that on numerous occasions under certain conditions, and their language that was issued after their first nuclear test in 2006, it echoed some of the Chinese statements that it made in 1964 regarding, their nuclear program is aimed at global disarmament and so forth. They said that their nuclear program is supposed to pressure the rest of the world to denuclearize. So North Korea has said similar things on numerous occasions, that they will be willing to abandon their nuclear weapons when the rest of the world does. So we'll see where this goes. I think there are other issues that could be addressed in arms control, some kind of confidence building measures. We could address their chemical weapons program, for example, is another thing that we might address in the shorter term, because the nuclear disarmament is going to take a long time. It's a long, complicated process.
And before we let you go, how much weight do you put on this being Kim's first trip outside of North Korea? Is this really a sign that the international sanctions are working and Kim is frantically looking for some economic assistance from China, its longtime ally, to try and free the regime from this self-imposed economic isolation Pyongyang finds itself in?
I think it's more complicated than that. There are multiple reasons. We don't know for sure. We don't sit in on the Politburo meetings and so forth, and they don't issue minutes from their meetings. We don't know what Kim is thinking. I'm doubtful that economic sanctions alone pushed Kim to come out in this, diplomatic in these diplomatic efforts. But it certainly could help or didn't hurt. So I think they have an overall long-term strategy to achieve their political objectives of, Korean unification in the long term. I don't think that's possible unless we let them do that. So whether it's by coercion or through some kind of charm offensive, as they call it, creating some kind of united front in South Korea, undermining the South Korean government or something like this. But nevertheless, I think the long-term goal, as we see in the Korean Workers' Party charter or bylaws, is to seek unification. So even if he's not sincere about it, taking these steps, at least it establishes his credentials domestically that he is a Korean nationalist seeking Korean unification, and that helps you stay in power in North Korea.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your insights there. And it surely is going to be a fascinating few weeks with those scheduled summits coming up between Kim Jong-un and the leaders of South Korea and the United States. And hopefully we'll learn more about what was discussed in the coming day or so. That was Daniel Pinkston, North lecturer of international relations at Troy University. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me.